Progressions is the topic which we are going to discuss for the session. What is progressions, or how do we define that in mathematical terms, is the biggest question out here. As we have been coming across many situations in real life of patterns. For example, I have a number 3 and then a number 5 and a number 7. Then immediately I can say that based on 3, 5, 7, my next number is 9, 11, 13. So from the first 3 or 4 terms, I can identify the 5th or 6th term, which we can easily identify through a pattern. Therefore, here to start with the topic of progressions, progressions is nothing but a pattern. Anything which follows a pattern comes under progressions. The pattern can be either, for example, if I take 2 squared, 2 cubed, then immediately I can say the next term is 2 power 4, because I can say this because I know that the first 3 terms are following a certain pattern. Therefore, 2 squared, 2 cubed, 2 power 4, 2 power 5, 2 power 6 is how I identify the pattern. So with the minimum information given, if you can identify the extended part of it, is what is called a pattern. Let's try some practice problems in identifying the pattern. Then I would like to know the next term in this pattern. I clearly see that when I add 4 to 1, I get 5. When I add 4 to 5, I get 9. When I add 4 to 9, I get 13. Therefore, when I add 4 to 13, that is 13 plus 4 equal to 17 is the next pattern, followed by 21, 25, etc. So every problem need not be with the same pattern. Different problems come out with different pattern. For example, here all terms are raised to integral powers with respective integers. Here each of the term is added with 4. So like this, we have different patterns which follow different sequences in identifying whether adding of 4 or raising it to power 2. Let's try some more problems for practice. For example, I have how do I know the next term here? So all patterns are not easy because some patterns are easy to construct, but some patterns are very complex. Say for example, with this example problem, 1, 3, 6, 10, etc. So my first term is 3 and my second term here is 3 and the third term 6 and the fourth term 10. Then what is the fifth term is the biggest question of the problem. So what do we get in the next followed pattern? Identifying the pattern is very important than writing the pattern out here. So what would be the next term out here? What kind of a pattern does it follow is what we're going to see. So let's see here. As I see the first term, this is 1, and as I see with the second term, this is 3, which is 1 plus 2, and as I see with the third term, this is 1 plus 2 plus 3, because each of the integers are added respectively in each of the term. 3 plus 2, 5 plus 1, 6, 2 plus 1, 3, and 1. And finally, my 10 is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. When added, 4 plus 3, 7, 9, and 10. Therefore, my next term is set to follow the similar pattern with 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. So therefore, my next term which has to be found will be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, which gives me 15. So 15 is the next term of the pattern, is how we identify. So there might be various forms in mathematics or the mathematical properties through which patterns exist. It is very important to identify the exact pattern which the mathematical terms follow. In this case being 1, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus 3, etc. 15, and then comes 21, etc. is how we identify the pattern here. Now let's come to the most important pattern in mathematics called the Fibonacci sequence, which is still a mysterious fact in mathematics. So let's see what the Fibonacci sequence says in its own terms. To start with, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, etc. So what kind of a pattern is this, and what are the next terms in the pattern is what we are going to identify here. This sequence is called Fibonacci sequence, one of the most important sequence in mathematics, connecting the golden ratio with it. So how do we identify the pattern here? Here it has been 1, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus 3, etc. And here it has been adding of 4 each time. And here it has been raising of the power 2 each time the sequence proceeds further. Then how do we identify the pattern here is the biggest question for the problem. So in this case, as I see here, when I take the first two terms, when I add the two terms, 0 plus 1 is 1. So when I add the first two terms, it gives me the next term. And when I add these two terms, it gives me the next term. That is, the next term is obtained by adding the previous two successive terms. That is, as I see here, 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5. Therefore, we can guess the next term being 3 plus 5. Therefore, I get this as 3 plus 5, which is 8, is the next term. And then finally, the next term will be 5 plus 8, which is 13, etc. So this kind of a sequence where the next term is the sum of the previous two terms successively is called a Fibonacci sequence. The terms being 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc. is called a Fibonacci sequence. So this kind of different types of sequences is what we are going to discuss in this today's session of progressions. The other word for progressions is following of a pattern. So let's see the different problems followed with different patterns out here. Now let's see how the progressions has come into existence with the real life situations. Progressions are generally used in everyday life. Unknowingly, we don't know that we are using the concept of progressions, but we use progressions in daily life very much. The applications of mathematics in daily life. For example, I go to a bank, then most of the banking transactions happen through progressions. As we can see here, for example, I go to the bank where I deposit a sum of 5,000 rupees in the bank. So when I deposit rupees 5,000 in the bank, the bank gives an interest of 200 rupees every year. Say for example, for the amount of 5,000, the bank interest per year is rupees 200. That is, every year uniformly there is 200 rupees which is increased as the interest for the deposited amount of 5,000. So after 6 years, I want to go and collect my money. So if I go after 6 years, what will be the amount of money? How much is the money I collect? Do I collect is the biggest question here. So after 6 years, definitely the money increases because the interest rate is 200 per annum or per year. And after 6 years, how much money do I collect? These are the transactions which we do in everyday life. Every household deposits money in the bank, and we use, interestingly, the progressions or the patterns in case of this real life situational problem. How do we use it is the biggest question for this real life problem. As I see here, I can see that in the first year, my deposit of 5,000 increases with 200 rupees as the interest. Therefore, this comes out to be 5,200. And therefore, my second year will have another 200 added to this, So I get 5,400, then 5,600, 5,800, so on and so forth. Therefore, let's start with second year, where this amount is added with 200 because the bank gives an interest of 200 rupees per annum. So this gives me rupees 5,400. Again, in the third year, 200 is added to this. So I get 5,600, 5,800, 5,000, 6,000. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6,200 is the amount which finally collects in the third year, fourth year, fifth year and sixth year. Now in the sixth year, this amount accumulates to rupees 6,200. That means by the end of the sixth year, I'm going to collect an amount of 6,200 years. For the initial amount which I deposited is 5,000 rupees. That means I'm at a profit of 1,200 rupees because the difference is 1,200. I'm at a profit of 1,200 rupees when I deposit the amount in the bank and remove it after 6 years. So this is how we understand the patterns in real life. Why do we know that this is increasing by 200? Because by the first 2-3 terms, we follow there's a pattern where every time it increases by 200, the amount increases by 200, and finally we get a pattern with this. This is an example of a pattern or a progression used in daily life.